Welcome to the Grande Bouffe.
The big feast.
With myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacy. And this week, our special guest, Mr. Armond White.
Hello, fellas.
Good afternoon, Armond. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, Armand. So honored to have you on the show.
I'm pleased that you asked. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, we are the first thing that we're going to do is crack open a beer, because we each have to have a seriously alcoholic beverage in our hand, of which this Free Will Brewing Coffee Oatmeal Brown Ale seems a delightful treat to celebrate this fine occasion of having Mr. Armond White on the Grande Bouffe, the Big Feast. So we're all pouring it into our glasses now, looking at the rich, reddish color.
I appreciate there's coffee in this because, full disclosure to audience, it is noon right now. A little earlier than I start drinking.
Coffee, beer, huh?
This week, why not?
8.3 is the ABV on this baby.
I have to go back to work, Cole.
Yeah, well, they don't
like
call
an hour.
No, this is your 3-martini lunch.
Okay.
So I chose this beer. It's from Free Will Brewing Company, which is a fairly new company that people just love, and I think that because Armond White and Cole Smithey are notorious in some circles, perhaps because of the way we exert our free will.
All right.
I thought that might be a good thing to just, a good landscape to be on. We're all, it's all about free will. So, and then the coffee oatmeal part, it's rich when you put coffee and oatmeal and hops together. So I think the richness of the characters in Moonlight. I could have gone cheesy and just chosen a beer that had moon in the title, but that would have been, elementary school. Can't bring a
blue moon in here.
Yeah, can't bring Kool-Aid to the grown-ups party when Armand's on the show.
Okay.
You want to?
Cheers, gentlemen. Cheers.
Hey. All right.
There we go. All right, let's get a taste of this lovely brew.
Tastes like coffee.
It does. It takes a second for the coffee to show up.
Yeah.
It's first. It just kind of feels like
it really lays on the back of your throat.
Yeah.
I like that.
First, it's just sort of like a nutty, thick ale, and then it hits you with the coffee at the end. I'm gonna be fine. This is like a cup of coffee.
What are the things that the carnival guys used to sell? The liquations. What do they call them? They had like a name for the
libations.
No, something. What was the word?
What, elixir?
Yeah, elixir.
Oh,
That's right. So I'm thinking of this coffee or this beer. See, I can't even identify it properly as an elixir. Is what I
think you've had some already.
I think so.
Well, my only question is, where's the donut to dunk into this?
I know. It's a good question.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I wish I had thought to do that.
All right.
Yeah, why are there not bars in Brooklyn yet that have only coffee, beer, and then donuts to go with it? Oh my God, 2 a.m, beer and donuts.
Yeah, the Free Will Coffee Oatmeal Brown Ale is quite delicious. So, Mike, I'm interested from your perspective, because you and I have known each other for about a year and a half, and you're a millennial, but your crowd has very tuned into Armond White.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a typical millennial thing, but I went to this school called St. John's College, and there was a lot of conservative intellectuals there, and some of my friends have submitted questions that they want me to ask you. They're big fans. At least one of them has friended you on Facebook. I don't know if you were aware of that, but I kind of want to jump into it. Can I just pull out some of these questions? I'm getting the biggest friend points right now. This is gonna be great.
Sure. I can get into that mode of Peter Thiel at the National Press Club.
Great.
my hero. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, so some of them are about this movie, and we'll lead into it. But let's start. I want to start for personal reasons with something about animated movies. What did you think of Inside Out, and would you think that it would be more successful as a live action film?
Oh, well, I have to cast back to my memory of Inside Out, which, to be honest, was a kind of surprise to me because it turned out to be a tolerable Pixar movie, and I usually find them intolerable.
Oh, wow.
So I could tolerate it, and I think it's better than the others. But really, I tend to put movies that I don't love out of memory. So I really do have to cast back to think about what I thought of Inside Out. But it was watchable. But then, as time went on, and it went further and further back in memory. Frankly, there wasn't enough there to stand out in the forefront of my memory.
I mean, Armand, as we should have said, you're an extremely well established and admired film critic, and you appear on like many things, but also a lot on like conservative media. And I think you exist in a sort of pocket of a intellectual film spot that I don't think there's too many people like you in that. What's your world like, do you feel, of what you're occupying in like the social conversation?
I have no idea about the social conversation, but I'm Team Armond. So I'm always trying to figure out things for myself. As Cole talked about free will, trying to hold on to the freedom to think for oneself rather than follow other people's ideas. Just to think for myself, to understand things for myself, and that's what I do as a person, and so as a film critic as well, trying to understand things for myself. I don't care about how other people respond to movies. I'm always trying to make sense of them myself. I think they're a rich experience. The best movies can be a rich experience. I guess bad movies can be some kind of experience as well. But I'm trying to understand that experience. It's not. I take movies seriously. And so I'm trying to understand what it is I'm looking at and how it affects me, and then think about why it affects me the way it does, and why this film was made, why it was made the way it was made.
Am I right that Pauline Kael is somewhat of a mentor to you? Is that right? Or at least a friend?
Well, she was always an inspiration. And then, because I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and she never lived in Detroit as far as I know, but she was always an inspiration. So when I finally got to New York and had a chance to meet her, she became a friend, and which was more than I ever dreamed, frankly. But she became a friend, but I have to immediately say, if there's one thing I learned from Pauline Kael, it is to think for yourself. Not to follow her, because I think she was annoyed by people who simply parroted her. And I was never interested in parroting her. I was always interested in following her example of taking popular culture seriously, and following her example of giving popular culture the weight, the intellectual weight, and the moral weight that it deserved, rather than thinking it was trash and dispensable.
Where do you think that tendency comes from, to look at popular culture and just sort of dismiss it as just products or something?
Probably comes from old ideas that cinema being a young art, hadn't earned the respect of the older arts, like literature and classical music and painting. And so you have people who, early in the 20th century, had a hard time accepting motion pictures as a legitimate art form. But that thinking no longer applies, or shouldn't apply any longer. Movies are more than justify themselves as serious art, as serious culture. Nowadays, post Tarantino era, the problem is people giving popular culture more weight than it deserves, just accepting anything as good rather than having standards. Films can be judged with the same kind of standards that we apply to architecture, classical music, poetry, and why not? Otherwise, because really that's the foundations of understanding art, and so I think it's necessary to apply the criteria we have for the traditional classical art forms to motion pictures.
So is there some sort of flip, do you feel, from not taking film seriously at all and respecting it and attempting to elevate the conversation to it and making films as something that people would see on a higher plane. And then at some point it flipped to all movies are great, and like these Hollywood's making all these amazing things that are like benefiting society. But if you dig into a lot of them, and I read your review of this film, so I feel like this is a bit of a setup to that conversation. Mm-hmm. It's a film that's being lauded, that is being seen as a completely like otherworldly experience that's showing you that, you know, you brought up intersectionality, all of these buzzwords, but if you apply certain lenses to it, in at least your opinion, it comes up short, you know? And so there's maybe a tendency to give too much credit to film, especially lofty film. Have we flipped to thinking that more film is art than really is?
Well, I think what's happened recently in the culture is that people have stopped having standards, and that they simply see. Well, there's been a very important shift and decline in culture, I think, where I think that there are generations of people who are accustomed to consumerism, and they think that any product that's sold to them is a good thing, and so they're willing to accept product without critical thinking. Look at something like Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, that exists to give people a forum to say that they love the new product, not to think critically about it, just to say how much they love it, and that's a symptom of a kind of intellectual decline.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we're not going to talk about it long. Don't worry, Armond. But what you said, what happened, the little phenomenon that occurred between you and I and Toy Story 3 mm-hmm. was, you know, it was one of the first flags of that system, because it really brought to my own attention. I wasn't aware when I wrote my review for Toy Story 3 mm-hmm. that there was any perfect score. I didn't give a flying. I didn't know about a perfect score.
Can we tell the backstory a little bit? Which is that.
Sure, go ahead.
My understanding is that previous to your review, all Pixar films on Rotten Tomatoes had received a perfect score.
That's
meaning
right.
Every critic that had reviewed it had given it at least a C+ or a C.
You know, better than that. I think everybody gave it, like no worse than a B.
No worse than a B. So then that factors out to 100% perfect score. You're critical of Toy Story 3, and suddenly you're in you were in Variety. Like, this was like a whole thing. And then the other part of the story that doesn't get brought up as much is you were like, after your review, soon I'm sure you had written it at the same time. Armond, I believe you also posted a negative one, and it's funny.
Our reviews were exactly 15 minutes apart.
So Cole got all the blowback, and then I saw people quoting your review for actually discussing content. So it's almost like you got credit and then you got all the blame.
That's what happened, yeah.
I got credit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the death threats. Did you get death threats,
Sure,
Armond?
of course. They come with the territory, I guess. But I guess also, should we really confess, Cole, that like people enjoy thinking nowadays, it was a conspiracy on our part.
Oh, yeah, we had this thing planned down to the second. I mean, you can tell by the timing, the very, spontaneous timing on a Friday afternoon when everybody else is trying to, get out of their office. Armond and I were writing our reviews of this thing. And my personal criticism of the film is the same that I had for, what's the Spielberg... D-Day movie.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
That's hilarious.
Which should never in anyone's world be an R-rated film. At the time,
Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my goodness, that is. If I took my 11-year-old son or daughter to see that movie, I would be escorting them out within the first 5 minutes. No, that's not an R-rated movie. The first 20 minutes are just gruesome.
You think it should be like NC-17?
Yeah, NC.
I thought you were
but they give him a pass, and it's the same thing that happened with Toy Story 3. If you took your 6-year-old kid to see this movie, that kid's you're gonna fuck that kid up. I mean, this is not G territory. It's a PG film. film. That's, that was one of my main sticking. I made like 17 different points. I had a lot of problems with the movie, but that on a fundamental level, that was an issue that I stand by.
Well, it's consistent, why was Saving Private Ryan given a lighter rating, if we can use that term? Because it's product.
That's right.
And the idea is that we must help Spielberg to sell.
That's right.
And in addition to that, let's not give in to the notion that movies are serious and some movies are adult films. Movies are a product to be consumed by everybody. And everybody, people don't have to think about them necessarily. That's an interesting point that you bring up. I had not before you said that recognized the clear corollary between, obviously you're going to give it a PG-13 because you want more butts and seats, of course. Sure.
Yeah, naturellement.
So you guys want to shift to this movie? It seems like it's getting
I do want to shift to this movie.
A lot of buzz in culture. I've been getting more ads for this movie, and I want to be like, I already bought the ticket on Fandango. Stop giving me Instagram ads for this movie.
Well, I have to say, I really appreciated Armand's take on this movie, and we focus on different things, but I think that you're recognizing how they're introducing this black character, and just to set up the context about everyone talking about this movie, it's because it's the only, other than Birth of a Nation, this is the only big black movie that's out there. So of course, in a way, it's the only game in town. And so of course it has to be treated as a token. We recognize that. That's the social Hollywood reality that we're in. We all know that, right? That's a given. Okay. We agree on that, right?
I guess yes.
Okay, so and Armand,
it's cool if you don't agree with that. I just want to say
I really appreciated how early in Armand's review how he talks about it being a character study, and that is clearly what this is a character study, and. Armand, you're going to elaborate. What I took away from Armand's review, one of the things I took away was about how this movie allows white people to pity this character, and so you're putting this character. It's kind of the same trope that things like Brokeback Mountain fall into, where the gay character has to be punished no matter what, and it's kind of like this thing that you're talking about, where we have to look at the poor kid in the ghetto with this sense of pity, and I associated it more with a film like The 400 Blows, where I was identifying with the character as an adolescent. I guess the adolescent attitude and mindset that all of these actors, I hope you'll agree with me, that the casting is brilliant in this film. I really felt like all of the actors were very bringing their A game to the movie, and really, really naturalistic and authentic. There isn't a fucking line reading in the movie.
The men were well cast. I'll go that far.
So anyway, the point that I'm getting at is where you had pity. You felt like this movie was engineered to induce pity. My experience as a white guy, of the same, like, just a generation behind you, but sharing the same punk rock ethics that you and I share. I saw it. I empathized with the character wholeheartedly, and so to me, while I was watching this movie, I was thinking of the character as being like kind of a corollary to Pierre Léaud's character in 400 Blows, and I really appreciated the sense of intimacy, and I know that you felt like at the end of the film's broken into 3 acts, and at the end he goes back and searches for this kid that he had a romantic encounter with, and you felt like that was how did you?
Not credible.
Yeah, not cheesy or false
and cheesy,
and but see, but I felt that. I understood that longing for lost love or whatever, and trying to go back and reconcile that. Excuse me, and I felt like both actors really portrayed that, and also, like the hug. You say it in your piece about how he's a character who needs a hug, and I know that can sound really like pap, but I really thought that was such an elegant way for these characters to express their sense of romanticism and eroticism.
Perhaps eloquent, but never credible, and that's my
okay.
That's
So
my basic,
okay, all right,
that's
okay.
my first response.
All right, so it seems like I'm gonna let you do that in 1 second.
Yeah.
As soon as I just say this one thing, which is just that. Okay, so it seems like the distance between us on this film has to do with authenticity. Is that right?
Well, I don't want to use that word.
Why not?
I want to say because that word has a lot of baggage with it. Which
okay. So what
complicated to get into.
Right, okay, so what word?
I just want to say it wasn't believable to me. But I understand you saying that you were touched and moved and identified with the hug. And I understand that because really, one reason people go to the movies is to feel good.
That's right.
And so I think it would be better to recognize or to appreciate a movie like Moonlight as a rom-com, perhaps, just as a romantic comedy, as a date movie, to something for a couple or a single person to go to and feel good about their own romantic aspirations, rather than think that here was a movie that was really getting to the core of what black or gay experience is.
Right, and that's exact. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And you say it's a character study, and it is. To me, this movie is a character study, and that's how I took it. Those are the terms that I took it on. And so, for me to experience it in that way allowed me to empathize fully with the characters. I thought that the acting was great. I thought that the storytelling was great. It's obviously it's based on a short story,
on a play. But here's the failing though. I mean, it presents itself as a character study.
Yeah.
But then it can only really be felt or appreciated as romanticism.
Right, I agree with that, and I think
as a kind of
I agree, but it's
cheap romanticism too, I would say.
Well, all right, hold on. I'm not going to get into that. We get that. We get to that. But I think the intentionality behind the movie is heartfelt.
Oh, fuck the intentionality.
No, don't fuck the intentionality.
No. Unless you can fulfill your intention in an honorable way.
Okay.
Don't have serious intentions and then give me romantic.
Okay. All right. We're gonna turn it over to Mike and let Mike's gonna talk about the setup for the story.
But I'd like to tie it into what you're saying is the credibility of some of these gaps. So the film is a 3-part film about the life from very early childhood, maybe 6 or 7, to late 20s, maybe early 30s, of a young man. He's a young black man who is born and raised mostly in Florida.
Yeah,
South Florida.
Child of a single mother who is a crack addict, and it follows these 3 stages. Each of these stages, he has a different name that he goes by. As you pointed out, that I thought that was very insightful, is he eventually adopts these names. He doesn't seem to have much of a sense of self, and we watch him transform rather like incredibly between these 3 segments. Like the leap of him being just a very tiny, terrified little boy to like a gangly teenager that can't, instantly, and seeing this teenager not be able to like control his body and is so just reeking of discomfort. Like that's where I started really like having empathy for him. And then he transforms a second time into 50 Cent. Like that actor looks exactly like 50 Cent. It's crazy. And I think some of the most, I liked a lot of the scenes in the third part as an adult. It was just this, and I didn't know it was a play, and that the third sequence is like, oh, of course, like that is just from a play. The transition, though, the idea that this is the same person, I mean, physically, it's almost incomprehensible that this gangly teenager is now this like 250-pound muscle-bound person, and I think it's almost like the movie's backwards to me. I think it's. There is this outsider, like, that guy that looks like a gangster with, like, the gold, like, fronts in his mouth. Well, here's who he could have been as a child. But, like, here's a little window into it. And that seems like a bit of the thesis, which I do feel is a little ham-handed, because it's like, I want to know this person. I want to access this character.
All right, I just want to point out one thing that I think that a good thing that the film brings that I respected, which is the context of seeing, this guy who's the drug dealer and this fraught relationship that he has with a drug addict who, ostensibly he's probably sold to many times. But
so this is the beginning with the Juan.
Yeah, but I feel like the way it's the first film that I've seen where the drug dealing is it's not pigeonholed as some criminal activity. It's shown as this capitalist entrepreneurial business that is available in this environment, and that's the truth of it. And so I felt like for the filmmaker to bring this sense of naturalism, really is what it is to me, I thought that was valuable.
How many years are we into hip hop now? It's not new.
No, it's not new. I'm not saying it's new.
Well,
I'm still saying it has. I'm still saying it has social import.
Another way of saying it's not new is to say it's not a revelation.
Well, it's not a revelation.
And in fact, it's probably a cliche by now. And I found Moonlight to be full of cliches. Probably the most offensive being one of the crackhead mother. Did you guys see that old movie from Wesley Snipes' film from the 90s called Sugar Hill, where it was done better? But that was a long time ago. So here we have Moonlight bringing back old ghetto cliches. For what? And to what purpose? Except to help people to feel sentimental about it. And that's what I reject.
I see your point. No, I do. I hear you.
I also made a point in one of the reviews I wrote. Wrote one for National Review and one for Out. That it might have been a better movie if it had not been implied that this is a character study of one person. If, in fact, the filmmaker Barry Jenkins had been a bit more imaginative, creative, and daring, and made it a movie about three totally different people, as Todd Solondz made Palindromes, for instance.
That's interesting.
And by making it about three different people, then Jenkins would have freed himself of the burden of audiences thinking, yeah, this is what black people.
Okay,
this is all black people.
Right, no,
I hear
it.
He would have freed himself of the burden of saying this is what all black people are like.
Yeah, no.
He simply would have said this is what people are like. And it might have even been helpful to have one of the three characters not be black at all. Right. Maybe even not be male.
I agree.
I think the movie just settles into racial stereotypes in a way that's far too comfortable for the Obama era.
I agree, but in all fairness, he's working from a theatrical adaptation.
No fairness. I don't get fairness.
No, but hold on. No. But listen, Armand, you have to consider the genre. You said this early in the podcast about you have to recognize that what the intent of the filmmaker is. What movie are they trying to make? Right? We have to take that as critics. We have to take that into consideration.
I thought he said fuck the intentionality.
All right, well he said that too. We're all hypocrites, and if we can all admit that,
I'm not a hypocrite.
I'll
tell you that right now.
No, we're all
but let me say,
no, I'm a fucking hypocrite.
I don't know what you are. But
I am a hypocrite. I try, believe me, I do my best, but I can't help myself.
I am not a hypocrite. I am not a hypocrite, and let me make a necessary point. Beyond that,
on the record,
there's no
not a hypocrite.
In a sense, there is no such thing as genre. In a sense, genre is just a commercial categorization to help Hollywood sell its product.
No,
you disagree, but I state that absolutely, and I can back it up with some history.
Well, okay.
But let me say,
I want to make the connection about genre because I think genre is important. I think to me, we all, as critics, we have things that we base our vision, our work ethic, our idea of why we do what we do, how we do it. To me, genre is the foundation of everything because I think that it's important as a film goer to know the genre of the film that you're walking into. I know what a superhero movie is, and I stay away from them because I know the genre, and I don't give a flying fuck about the genre. So, but by the same token, if it's a neo-noir, I also that's a genre that
the worst genre ever.
You don't like the Grifters, really?
No, I don't.
Oh my God, I love the Grifters.
But anyway, I want to reiterate the point though that of course we can understand movies by categorizing them in terms of genre.
Right.
But genre is primarily a commercial categorization.
I don't agree with that.
And the obligation of every artist is to break out of genre.
Well, now that I agree with. That part I agree with.
To oppose
That
and
part
mix
I agree
and not give in to the genre idea. And
No,
because
no.
when you do that, you simply repeat what's been done before.
Nah.
And what good is that?
Okay, really? You think Miles Davis didn't think about genre all day and all night?
I think he absolutely did not. I
think
think that's
he
why.
did.
That's why. That's why
No,
he
I
was
think
Miles
he
Davis.
did. No, I think he thought about it.
Probably his thought was fuck genre. I'm making the music.
Well,
I
no,
feel.
but he had to, in order to create, he had to bounce off of something. He had to resonate off of something. He had to play off of something, and that's what he played off of. I mean, you don't think that he thought day and night about how to reject genre? That's the real motherfucker,
Okay.
man. You have to think about
hey.
you have to think about how to reject that thing.
Reject it, but don't give into it.
But you have to.
and
But
that's the
you
point.
got to know the lay of the land. You have to know that shit.
Then most movie makers should simply go back to school and learn the genres before they try to simply
Oh,
repeat
fuck
them.
that, dude. Punk rock, man. They start making movies. I mean, you know.
Actually, sadly,
Start
there is
making
no
movies.
analogy to punk rock in cinema. It just isn't.
Jim Jarmusch, really?
Yeah. Give me a break. If only because.
Oh, I disagree. I think Jim Jarmusch is the epitome of the punk rock. Jim Jarmusch, punk rock filmmaker.
No. Only because movies are a bourgeois art form, meaning you got to have money to make movies. You can't simply go in a garage and make a movie.
Yeah, punk rock doesn't have crash service.
That's a good way to put it too. But really, there's no analogy between that. But no. Filmmakers have to get out of the genre, and critics, audiences maybe, but critics especially, have to get away from thinking that movies fit into genres, and that's okay. Identifying a genre is good for is good to begin a conversation. But as you get deeper into a movie, if it's the great movies cannot be categorized in genre terms.
Good point.
So
Actually.
there's something about the messaging of this movie that comes to the foreground. You know, it's like the conversation we've been kind of having is, should I engage with what it's wanting me to talk about and think about, or can I just get into these characters in this film? But something that I'm hung up on is to be like, I'm on board for what it's saying. I'm on, like, if I was on board with the point that it's trying to make, to like have me, like, as in your words, to have pity for this this character who's at the intersection of gay culture and black culture. There's something weirdly like why right now? You know, like, it doesn't seem like exactly timely. Like, even that message is like, you know, the vision of like black maleness is trying to overcome. I mean, maybe it is absolutely relevant for the Trayvon Martin phobia, like, in the world, but it does seem a bit out of place in the conversation.
See, I disagree with that, because you got films like I Am Not Your Negro. Have you seen that?
Not yet.
God, you got to see it. It's the best thing Samuel L. Jackson's ever done. He's amazing. No, I'm serious. I am deadly serious.
It's just it's a laughable idea, but I hear you.
It is. No, you'll see. He embodies the voice of James Baldwin. It's quite something. And then 13th, which
Sure.
hey. No, you got to.
It's a documentary, though.
It is, but it's the landscape that we're dealing with in cinema right now. These are the black import films that are in the discussion.
It's the landscape we're dealing with in the Obama era.
I agree.
Please say more. Yeah,
where in certain social groups become special interest groups, and in the Obama era, these are the groups that we must pity, and in pitying them, pretend that we're supporting them.
So is that your issue? Is that the pity dresses itself up as actual alliance and of like, giving any sort of political power? Is that the
that's one? Yeah, that's one fault, and another is that it's just the pity. It's a form of condescension, and you know, pity is always for the weak. Pity is always for the contemptible, essentially.
Well,
and that's what all these movies are all about. That is an aspect of the Obama era political correctness that all of these current movies play into. That's what they're made for. They're not made to understand how complex it is to be a human being.
Right.
They're simply made to tell people, oh, poor black people, poor gay people. And that's offensive to me.
Yeah, I just want to say I totally hear that argument loud and clear. I mean, I have no issue with what you just said. I agree, and
better movies don't do that. And so you know,
and it's a point well taken. But I do think as a as a cinematic artifact, I do think that the performances in this film are very entrancing. I mean, entrancing is the word that I think of when I think of these actors. And I really feel like they're putting their skin on the line in this movie.
Putting their skin on the line?
Yeah. For me,
what do you mean by that?
I know. Listen. No, but you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, well, let me tell you. Like Steve McQueen, right? Can we agree that Steve McQueen's a great actor? I feel like he's.
Oh, that's Steve McQueen.
Oh, the real Steve McQueen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you see the Le Mans movie?
Le Mans, I've not seen Le Mans.
Yeah.
But have you seen Baby the Rain Must Fall?
No.
Well, that's the best American movie of the 1960s.
Oh, okay.
Really, by Robert Mulligan.
We're gonna do it. It's next week's thing. We're already.
You must know Baby the Rain Must Fall.
Well, thank you.
Steve McQueen at his finest.
Oh, well, thank you for the tip.
Seriously.
Thank you for the tip. So for me, Steve McQueen, who is a guy who always had skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if you see a movie like Le Mans, which is to me the best racing movie that will ever exist, it's because he was a guy who was really willing to put his whole being and body into the thing, and I feel like these guys did that. So I'm looking at this movie as an adaptation of a theatrical play, and for that I appreciate the character study, and I appreciate the performances, and I appreciate the dialogue and the narrative, but I completely hear your much larger issue. I'm looking at the movie within a very confined context, and you're bringing in obviously into the immediate social context. And I agree. I have to say, you completely convinced me.
I would say don't appreciate it too much. After all, they got paid.
Yeah.
So you don't need to appreciate it at all.
No, I want them to get paid. I'm very happy. I hope they got paid very well.
I hope they got paid. But
not just paid, but
having been paid, I am not obligated to appreciate what they do. They simply did a job.
I hear you.
I much more appreciate the work done by my apartment building's plumber.
Right.
Right. But also that's what all actors attempt to do.
Sure.
Is put their skin in the game.
Yeah.
So what? To put your skin in the game.
All right. Okay.
I think what's part of the problem of the Moonlight craze.
Yeah.
Is that
here's the problem is the fucking craze. Like if the movie were just a movie, and this is what I said earlier about like you gotta look at the landscape. I mean, if this was like one of like 25 similar African American themed films, then it would be a whole different discussion that we're having. But because this is the only one and everyone's latched onto it because this is going to be the token, we can see it. Here it is.
Yeah, so I'm not a party to that.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is that good movies get ignored. Released around the same time as Moonlight is the French filmmaker André Téchiné's movie Being 17, which is about being a gay teenager. It's a beautiful film.
No one tells stories in film like the French.
It's very stylistically inventive.
Sure.
And it's in Téchiné's understanding of what it is.
What's it called?
Being 17.
All right, everybody. Being 17.
His
that's
understanding
the movie.
of what it is.
Don't go see Moonlight. Go see Being 17.
Absolutely. Yeah. Téchiné's understanding of what it is to be a teenager, what it is to be gay, what it is to be a citizen, is so much richer than any other movie playing right now. Because part of the story,
I believe you.
Part of the story of Being 17 is about there's a white French school kid who falls in love with an adopted Algerian school kid.
Cool.
And Téchiné, believe me, Téchiné doesn't even.
Oh, I love Téchiné. Amazing.
He doesn't even mention politics here, but it's there, and you see it and you feel it.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but it's unmistakable.
It's like Iggy Pop. That's what I always think about him.
Subtle and unmistakable.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Well, the politics anyway.
Okay. But my point is that you have a great film like Being 17.
There you go.
And it's totally ignored in the media because the media in the Obama era prefers to play this political game and pity people.
That's why we have you on this show, Armond, so you can set the record straight.
I'm trying to.
Can I bring up one last thing before we wrap up about this movie owes like an incredible debt to Terrence Malick. I think that the cinematography is borderline totally derivative of that in the editing. Even I went with a friend yesterday who has never seen a Terrence Malick film, and he's like, I loved everything about the editing, the cinematography, and I was just like, no, man, have you seen any Terrence Malick movie? It's that's what it is. And I think there's like a summing up of this movie, which is like the show Empire meets Terrence Malick.
Shit. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Okay.
No, you should.
It sounds like mirrored to me.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
If I got to get in a plug for my book.
Oh yeah, let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
What do you got?
My book is called New Position:
Oh,
The
good.
Prince Chronicles.
Oh yeah.
And it's available on Amazon, y'all.
Nice.
And it's a book. It's partly a collection of all the things I've written about Prince since I've been writing about popular culture.
Cool.
As well
Amazing.
as several new essays that also.
Are there any photos in it?
No, it's a book.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a book. I got it.
It's a real book to be read and thought about.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's a graphic novel.
How many pages is it?
I forget right now, but it's like 150.
What's
Cool.
the ISBN number?
Right. Yeah. Wait a minute. On
Let me get my-
Amazon.
let me get my cell phone and I can tell you
I'm
that.
Googling Amazon right
Go to
now.
Amazon. That's
Just
where it is.
Type in Armond White and it'll come up.
And but this is also relevant to Moonlight because one of the things I deal with in an essay called Portrait of the Artist as a Young Christian is how Prince deals with sexuality, with what seemed to be his ambisexuality and his awareness of himself as a Christian and as a Black American. And the complexity that we hear in Prince's music and understand, I think, almost immediately, is another thing that's absent from Moonlighting.
I was about,
excuse
like
me.
you brought
Well,
up,
see,
like,
there you go, and I like that part of your review when you talked about this the song at the end and the songs they should have used. That I mean, you'll get no argument here.
I think that's a very interesting point, that there is no religion in the world in the movie of Moonlight, and there's something inauthentic to that. Like,
And then also, why a song from the 1960s, which would never be relevant to the lives of these two young men?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's just more sentimentality aimed at the Obama crowd, frankly, aimed at Obama's generation, and that kind of thinking, rather than being a true depiction of gay hip hop, of the gay hip hop generation. The movie's a fake.
which is very much a real thing. There's a documentary that I would show, like a course that I helped teach about hip hop and the sort of the subtle like homoeroticism and like the rappers who are themselves gay. It's very much a thing. You don't have to harken back to these weird. And it's very play-like and a little pretentious to like harken back to this song that relates. I thought of you because of this song. There's real substantial things.
Yeah, that part's total baloney.
Total baloney. And really, who wants to go back to somebody who joked at?
All right, so I think Mike will agree that we've had our Armond White on the show, and he has completely changed Cole's mind about this movie.
Yeah, Cole, you did like a 180 there.
As Donald Trump would say, victory. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for listening. All of our friends that we have in Iceland and Canada and the Caribbean and Venezuela and Portugal and Spain.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening so much. This is Cole Smithing telling you to please. I'm a little drunk off free will business, but remember to turn your cell phones off when you're walking, driving, or watching.